Buddy, this is Pastor Willie from Crossroads Church, and this is the Wednesday prayer devotional as we encourage each other to pray. We remind each other to pray, and my wife, Pastor Daisy, and I are away at a pastor's prayer summit. We return in a few hours. We're in Pennsylvania. We've had a great time praying, and more than ever, we both believe that prayer is the foundation of everything. And today I want to talk to you about finding strength in times of weakness, times of difficulty, times of uncertainty. You know, those times when you seem to hit a wall and you have no strength. How do you find strength? Now, I want to start off by saying there's a difference between knowing something or knowing of something and actually learning something in your life. And to actually learn it, so it's part of you, you have to go through something. Now, we all love the Psalms of David. We love to read them. But you know, because they connect with our emotions in difficult times. But you know that David, in order to write that, and you can tell that he went through it. He went through committing sins. We write Psalm 51. And we all love Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. He walked through the valley of the shadow of death. He faced death for a long period of time in his life. People trying to hunt him down. So he faced it. He learned it. He may have known it when his mother told him things like that. But he learned it by going through the valley of the shadow of death. When in Psalm 27, he said, whom shall I fear? The Lord is my light and my salvation. So that means he must have had fearful situations. So that the key here is we can hear something and know it, but we have to go through the situation. We're going to look at a situation in David's life in 1 Samuel chapter 30. Now, this is when Saul is trying to kill him. He has his men. They're living in a town, a village, and they decide to go out on a raid against the enemy. And so they leave their wives and children, the elderly people that are with them, back in the village. They go, they do their mission, they come back, and they find out that the enemy has attacked the village, burned it to the ground, and taken every single one of their children, their elderly, and their wives captive. And the men, it says in verse 3 of chapter 30 of 1 Samuel, when David and his men reached Ziklag, they found it destroyed by fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. So David and his men wept aloud until they had no strength left to weep. No strength left. What came to my mind is the fires in Los Angeles. We've all seen the images. But imagine it's your house. You come back, your house is burned, your family is gone. And you cry and cry until you can't cry anymore. You've come to the end. You've come to the end. And there's no one to help you. And for David, it was even worse. He was the leader. So it's probably his idea, let's all go and we'll leave the people here. He didn't keep a guard there. So the men, because the men were in anguish, this is what it says. It says in verse 6, David was greatly distressed because the men were talking of stoning him. Each one was bitter in spirit because of his sons and daughters. So the men wanted to stone David. So David was by himself. He had nowhere to turn for strength. Now, when people are bitter and broken inside, they look for a way to express that. And so that's what was happening with the men. They were expressing it towards David. Maybe he deserved it, maybe he didn't deserve it. But that's what happens. And so David is all alone. His family is gone, his house is gone, and his men want to kill him, stone him to death. Where's he going to turn? He's in a horrible, horrible situation. But the next word is the word but. And that's, to me, the best word in the Bible. No matter what happens in your life, but God. You may have failed, you may have sinned, but God has grace. But God. So it says, but David found strength in the Lord his God. David found strength in the Lord his God. David turned to God. He turned to God when there was nowhere else to turn, when he was feeling totally wiped out, that he couldn't even cry anymore. He turned to God. And David, in that moment, learned on a deeper and deeper level that God was his strength, his rock, his salvation. And so by going through this situation, David now not only knows it, but he's learned it, and it's part of his life, that he can find strength in the Lord no matter what happens, even if he's alone in his struggle. And so that's a lesson for us when we face times of weakness. Paul learned the same thing. You read 2 Corinthians chapter 1. He says, but these things happen so that we would learn not to trust in ourselves, but in God who raises the dead. So when you're going through something, it's actually an opportunity to learn, and God will teach you. So you will be able to encourage yourself in the Lord. So whatever you're going through, finding strength in whatever times you're going through, remember, find strength in the Lord. But, no matter what's happening, but David found strength in the Lord. David found strength in the Lord his God. And you, my friends, and I can do the same. Yes, it's a painful lesson to learn, but it's the greatest lesson you can learn, right? When we go through difficult times, even those close to us may turn against us, but God will be our strength and a very present help in times of trouble. So I encourage you to turn to God in your distress. I'll be happy to pray for you. My wife and I are going to be praying for anyone who needs prayer today. Just put a comment below. Send me a message, and we'll be happy to pray for you and intercede for you. But I want to encourage you, more than anything else, find your strength in the Lord. So this is Pastor Willie, and this is the word for today. I put some prayer points down below. You can pray for pastors and church leaders who sometimes feel isolated, and it'd be good for us to pray for them. Pray that God would build his house, his church, and let's pray that the church will become a house of prayer, a place where people can find strength in the Lord. So if you need anything, send me a comment. And until next week, God bless you. Find your strength in the Lord. God bless.